Safe following distance. Follow the 3-second rule. Even the simple act of driving involves some risk, but the likelihood of an accident increases significantly when you follow other cars too closely. When you're driving, you may stay safe by maintaining a reasonable following distance and following the 3-second rule to prevent collisions. Continue watching to find out more about the value of keeping a safe distance when driving, as well as specifics on how to put it into practice each time you get behind the wheel. Stopping distance and your safety. You must comprehend the fundamentals of stopping distance in order to appreciate the significance of maintaining a safe following distance. The term, stopping distance, refers to the distance it takes for a car to stop completely in an emergency. To calculate the exact distance needed, the stopping distance takes into account two key variables. Your reaction distance from the other car comes first, followed by your braking distance. The distance between your car and an event happening in front of you and how you react to it is known as the reaction distance. A certain amount of time always elapses between the time anything happens and the moment you apply the brakes. Reaction times can range from several seconds to as little as a millisecond. There are several variables that can affect how long the reaction time or distance is. Your age, your driving history, and even the weather conditions might all be relevant factors. The majority of the time, you can respond and come to a stop somewhere between 0.2 and 2 full seconds. Speeding drivers will have a shorter reaction time since they will encounter problems much more quickly. Another important variable in this equation is the stopping distance. This phrase describes the distance your car travels after you apply the brakes and bring it to a complete stop. A simple equation: it will take longer for you to stop the quicker you're going. Your speed and stopping distance are inversely proportional. For instance, doubling your speed would cause your braking distance to be quadrupled. Your stopping distance is equal to your reaction distance plus your braking distance when these factors are taken into account. The total stopping distance is 40 feet if an emergency occurs in front of you and you drive another 20 feet before responding to the situation and another 20 feet before stopping. You must keep a safe following distance to prevent an unforeseen collision. Implementing the 3-second rule can make this simpler and prevent you from getting into a car accident. Driving aggressively is characterized by following too closely. While paying attention to the automobiles in front of you is crucial, you should also pay attention to the ones following you. In order to give yourself enough time to slow down and prevent both front and rear collisions, you should leave more space between your automobile and the car in front of you if the driver behind you is tailgating. So, what is a safe following distance? Whenever possible, you should always strive to keep a following distance of 3 seconds or more. In the event that the car in front of you suddenly applies the brakes or collides with another vehicle, you will have more time to respond. You never know when there might be road debris, when there might be work up ahead, or when there might have already been another collision. Giving yourself the space you require to avoid colliding with another vehicle might make the difference between a bad driving day and a safe one. While using a safe following distance should generally follow the 3-second rule, the actual length of time you need to react may be longer. This is especially important if you're driving in bad weather, on ice roads, or at night. The kind of cars that are on the road can also have an impact on your following distance. For instance, you should keep at least 5 car lengths, or 70 feet, away from a snowplow. Whenever possible, attempt to maintain a distance of 243 feet, or around 16 vehicle lengths, from other standard cars. Of course, congested roads and heavy traffic don't always allow for this, but this is the greatest area to guarantee a secure halt. Try to maintain a distance of 20 vehicle lengths or roughly 300 feet when driving next to semi-trucks. These massive trucks haul big cargoes, and if they suddenly applied their brakes, the load might fall loose and result in a potentially terrible accident. Keep around 500 feet or 33 car lengths back from emergency vehicles with their lights and sirens on, such as fire engines, ambulances, and police cars. You don't want to obstruct these vehicles from accomplishing their jobs because they frequently travel at a high rate of speed to reach their destination. How to understand and calculate the 3-second rule. The most frequent accident type is a rear-end collision, and at least one motorist is typically at fault. This causes a slower reaction, which shortens the distance needed to stop and brake. The 3-second rule ensures that you always maintain your attention on the automobile or truck in front of you. Give more room for heavier vehicles, and try to stay focused so you don't get into a potentially dangerous crash. This rule is quite easy to calculate. In general, you should leave 3 seconds in between your car and the one in front of you. You can do this by counting 1001, 1002, 1003, while focusing on a single location in the distance, such as a sign on the side of the road. You are following the other car too closely if you discover that you have already crossed the marker point before the 3 seconds have passed. No matter how fast you're moving, this straightforward law still holds true. The reason for this is that the longer the distance you cover in the allotted 3 seconds, the faster you travel. In order to escape the 3-second gap, your vehicle must be farther away from the car in front of you as your speed increases. The 3-second rule takes into account your speed as well as the distance that the vehicle in front of you needs to stop completely. The rule offers you a tiny bit of extra time in case they suddenly apply the brakes. Of course, there are some circumstances in which you might need to modify your following distance. For instance, you will need more time and space to stop the extra weight you are moving if you are towing a big trailer. Also, when pursuing a motorcycle, you ought to maintain a little more space. You must leave adequate distance between your car and theirs so that you have time to react and stop in order to avoid a collision because they are smaller and can stop pretty suddenly. Using the 3-second rule is a great approach to guarantee that you're always maintaining a safe following distance, regardless of your speed, the weather, and other factors. When you utilize it more frequently, it will become second nature if you try your best to put it into practice every time you drive. You can benefit from having even a tiny bit more time to respond and avoid a collision. The 3-second rule will provide you with a consistent safety net when driving. When to increase your following distance. To keep yourself safe, you might occasionally need to increase your following distance. If a tailgater is following you, give the car in front of you some more room and don't brake suddenly. If you can, switch to another lane to avoid the tailgating driver. You can extend your following distance if the roads are slick by counting up from 1. When driving in bad weather like rain, snow, or ice, you should always be aware of your speed and following distance. Follow motorcycles or bikes carefully when they are on wet or slippery roads, gravel, or metal surfaces. On these kinds of conditions, cyclists and motorcyclists are particularly vulnerable to falling. It might go horribly wrong if you follow them too closely. Give yourself a bit more distance in front of your car if the driver in front of you wants to pass. This spacing puts you at a safe distance from the other cars on the road and allows the other driver the room they need to move in front of you. Whenever possible, extend your following distance when behind a trailer or any other vehicle pulling a big load. These trucks may find it more challenging to stop because of their additional weight and the goods they are carrying. This also holds true when you are driving behind a big vehicle that is blocking your view in front, so you have more room to look around it. If you're driving in a city, you should also increase your following distance if you encounter any kind of bus. Keep an eye out for these trucks as they must stop at railroad crossings. Finally, anytime you merge onto the motorway, pay strict attention to your following distance. If you don't leave yourself enough space from other cars when you merge into fast-moving traffic, it could be dangerous. Follow the rule for safe driving. You'll have a lot better luck avoiding a serious crash when you keep a safe following distance and adhere to the 3-second rule. Always make sure you have adequate space to react and brake before hitting a moving object on the road.